Could I have the list of the webinars we're doing?
All right.
The list of the webinars while he gets ready. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you.
All right, well, Professor gets ready. I just want to announce that we are having platform digital workshops immediately after this televised program. And I'll just quickly read out the platform digital workshops. First one they'll be speaking on creating national wealth through entertainment and tourism. The second, exporting Nigeria's culture through fashion. The third is family as a bedrock for a strong and stable society. The fourth is law as the framework for social and economic development. The fifth is the impact of mentoring, a review of the Igbo apprentice system and how it can be applied nationwide. The sixth is living with special needs, disability in Nigeria today, breaking the stigma. The seventh is restoring Nigeria's economy through agriculture, current realities and future possibilities. The eighth is improving public sector productivity, a call to action. The ninth is private sector as a catalyst for national development. The 10th is citizens' involvement in politics and governance. The 11th is building creativity into our curriculums in entertainment. The 12th is igniting indigenous capital for economic transformation. The 13th is positioning Nigeria strategically to derive economic value from the global digital ecosystem. The 14th is the human capital development, a driver of economic growth. The 15th is women in leadership navigating the barriers. And the 16th is profitability and sustainability in the Nigerian health sector. These are webinars. You have got to register. You go to insightsforliving.org. Do that right now. Just go on your phone, insightsforliving.org/breakout sessions. /breakout sessions. You see the list. Choose one. They start at 3 p.m. They have brilliant people who will be facilitating, and they'll be going into detail concerning these things. All right. So they are strategic sessions. They will never be made public, and so you want to join that and know what is going on at that level. All right. So I go back to Professor Akinyemi here, and I'll just quickly introduce him. Professor Bolaji Akinyemi is a professor of political science who was Nigeria's External Affairs Minister from 1985 to 1987. Presently, he is the chairman of the National Think Tank. Professor Akinyemi was a visiting professor of several prestigious international universities and a senior lecturer of political science at the University of Ibadan. And by 1975, he became the Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, the nation's foreign policy development and formulation center. As Director General of Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, he conceived the idea of dialogue to broaden the base of foreign policy consultation. By 1985, he was appointed the Honorable Minister of External Affairs of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This was under General Ibrahim Babangida. During this period as Foreign Affairs Minister, he was involved in negotiating the ceasefire in Chad, Libya, and in Mali, Burkina Faso war. He conceived and moved the concept of concert of medium of powers, an idea which sought to bring together middle powers for the purpose of using their collective bargaining power to mediate disputes within international system. After his ministerial assignment, the Center of International Studies, University of Cambridge, England, appointed him a fellow of the international relations. He's also a life member of Clare Hall, University of Cambridge, England. So we have an intellectual giant with us this afternoon, and I want to ask him a couple of questions. Thank you very much, sir, for coming into this program. All right, our first question. In 2014, President Goodluck Jonathan inaugurated the national conference led by Justice Idris Kutigi GCON as chair. You were vice chair. The group was set some laudable objectives, some of which included resolving impediments to our cohesion as a truly united nation, removing all obstacles which have prevented the country from establishing an agreeable political system, and resolving character and the nature of our economic system that will impact positively on the lives of citizens, to name a few among other equally important points. Many Nigerians had hoped for a significant shift in the nation, in the state of the nation, following this conference, this confab, about 7 years ago. So our first question is, did the conference achieve its objectives, and was anything put in place to track the implementation of the recommendations from this conference?
Thank you very much for introducing me to the platform. And I have followed the contributions of people who have preceded me. Yes, the conference achieved its objectives. Over 300 delegates from all over Nigeria were invited to be participants in that conference. Nobody walked out. The conference did not break up. So the first achievement, which I think Nigerians should not lose sight of, is when the people, the representatives of the people, were consulted, we reached a consensus on the objectives that were set. For us, we agreed on over 600 resolutions, and we reached that agreement by consensus. So we did achieve the objectives set for us. The question you raised as to whether any mechanism was put in place to monitor the implementation of that conference, we ensured, and we got that agreement from President Jonathan. We put the report of the conference on the internet. It wasn't classified the secret report until today, because I checked before I came on. It is still on the internet. So every Nigerian can check on the internet policies of government and see to what extent they are coterminous with what the conference agreed to, or they diverged from what the conference agreed to. For example, Pastor, the President signed the Police Act, I think last week or about 2 weeks ago. We had a recommendation on how the IG will be appointed and how the IG will be removed. Nigerians can go to that platform and now see whether that Police Act was an implementation of what we agreed to or not. So that is there. I share with you and with Nigerians the disappointment that the resolutions and the recommendations of that conference have not been implemented, not in its totality. I mean, government has the right to go through reports and pick what it likes, but that there is a visceral reaction by the present government against the report, and that to that extent, this report has not been implemented in its totality. I want to see this opportunity, sir,
yes, sir,
to draw the attention of Nigerians to a report that is often ignored, and that is the Uwe's report on electoral reform. We embodied, I served on that electoral reform committee. Believe me, it's one of the most exhaustive reports in the life of Nigeria.
All right, sir. Second one. Are the recommendations still valid in the context of the geopolitical and economic climate of Nigeria today? Do you feel that we should still look at this report, that it is valid and will help the country?
Most certainly. If you recall, the agitation that's going on right now is that the 1999 Constitution is fake because Nigerians were not consulted and Nigerians were not involved. Well, the 2014 National Conference, as I said earlier on, had over 300 delegates. So it has addressed that issue of consultation. Number two, all the issues that were addressed in terms of an overburdened center. I listened earlier on when Mr. Fashola was speaking earlier on your program, when he was talking about the need to have issues that are local addressed at the local level. We dealt with that. We moved issues away from the exclusive list and moved them to the state list and to the local government list. We called for revenue allocation that would then address the movement of issues so as to give the state and the local government the whereof to carry out their functions. So till today, that report is still relevant. But let me say this, sir. Let me say this. I've been long enough in government to know that when a government says it doesn't like a report, there is no use forcing that government. It won't do it. But what I will appeal to the present government to do, because there are so many reports. I've mentioned the Waste report. There is the Obasanjo report. And you have the 2014 report. And you have the El-Rufai report. Okay, bring all these reports into a basket. Set up a task force on what? Federalism and reconstruction. And now this task force may be made up of 50 people, maybe more, maybe less, to come up with what I will call a blue report for government, drawing government attention to the issues it should accept in all these reports, and then government itself can come up with a white paper instead of the Buhari government setting up a totally new constitutional conference. To me, this is the way to go about it. But let me issue a warning. Nigerians have a way of trivializing everything. A husband and a wife will sit down in their sitting room and come up with a draft constitution for Nigeria. They will call a press conference and call a world press conference, even though there will be no international journalists there. And they will release this to Nigeria as their own draft constitution. We trivialize issues. Believe me, right now, I think that I'm aware of, there are about 15 draft constitutions that are floating all over the place. And there will be more as people seek to draw attention to themselves.
All right, sir. Your journey into diplomacy started very early. You were Director General of NIIA at the age of 33. At this point, you had already completed your doctorate degrees. You saw the need to bring together minds on foreign policy and started an association to challenge the status quo on foreign policy. What is your advice to the younger generation regarding diplomacy and its power to effect real change?
Well, if we are talking about changes on the global level, this really can only be done by the state. But individuals and associations can, through conferences, through studies, through books, take... Can you hear me? Hello?
All right, sir, you can continue.
Sorry, am I back with you?
Yeah, continue. I don't know where that came from.
All right. Individuals, associations can, through conferences, through books, through whatever it is, make inputs into what government should do or not do on the global platform. But in terms of soft diplomacy, that is where the activities of individuals can make a direct input, except without going through government. A Nigerian who becomes a brilliant surgeon in the United States and performs unique operations, he is a Nigerian making that direct input. A Nigerian who becomes a successful entrepreneur without the input of government abroad. I don't want to mention names. That is making a positive input into soft diplomacy. There are 1,000,001 things Nigerians can do that would be positive in terms of rebranding the image of the country. I admit that there are criminals, but then every country has criminals. So Nigerian branding should not just be defined by the criminal activities of a few. There are lots of brilliant Nigerians who are making brilliant contributions, whether in the health sector, in the educational sector, all over the world. And these are positive inputs into soft diplomacy.
All right, sir. Do Nigerians in the diaspora have a role in our foreign policy? Do they have a role?
Yes, they do. That's related to my last answer. I have been, believe me, proud of the achievements of doctors in the United States, doctors in United Kingdom. I'm proud of the achievements of additional at the African Development Bank, of Okonjo-Iweala at the World Bank and various other financial institutions where she's been involved. I am very, and let me say this, and it has nothing to do with me being a Christian. I think the activities of the Pentecostal churches in establishing Nigerian presence positively all over the world, that contribution has not been given the recognition that it deserves. I know you talked about in diaspora, but then your branches constitute a core of the Nigerians in diaspora. The same thing for Nollywood. Nollywood, the impact it is making in our soft diplomacy, believe me, there are more than, I should say this, more than the collective activities of our ambassadors. We are making it, not as much as we should, and we should encourage us to do better, but we are not a failed state, at least not yet. and our impact on the global scene is still not up to where it should be. If United Arab Republic, Emirates, can send a rocket to Mars, I want Nigeria to be there on the stage of people sending rockets. Therefore, we shouldn't sit down and be complacent. Oh no. In fact, we are in danger of regression. But there are lots, and I think this is the point of your question, there are lots and lots of input, positive inputs that can drive our foreign policy and that I recognize as a scholar.
All right. There's a lot going on in the world today, and I mean, I understand you may not particularly want to speak to this, and so if you don't want to, you don't have to. But there's a lot going on in our foreign policy space today, and the Nigeria and the respect even Nigeria had in Africa in the 70s, 80s, 90s, it doesn't look the same. So, I mean, you don't have to answer, but what should our approach to foreign policy for the future look like? But if you don't want to answer, I'll take it that.
I understand you, Pastor, and thank you for giving me a leeway out of a spot. But you put me on the spot, and people will call me a coward if I dodge the question. Look, we must have a leadership, or let's call a spade a spade. We must have a president who has a vision of the greatness of Nigeria. That's the first thing. Number two, he must surround himself with experts who can help him to design policies that will encapsulate this vision of a great Nigeria. I am not impressed with policies that make Nigeria look like a mouse on the global scene. I am not. I am not impressed by policies that are not driving Nigeria to be an active and positive player. You refer to the concept of medium powers when you were introducing me. This was the essence of what I was trying to do. The time you referred to, we had one foreign policy issue, but it was a global issue, and that was the anti-apartheid issue, to bring an end to anti-apartheid. And that gave us kudos. Well, once that finished, have we designed really another foreign policy issue that we can then run after? And that was what I was trying to do. Part of it I achieved by setting up the technical aid corps scheme, which allows Nigeria to send experts all over the world, experts to countries that ask for these experts. And they are there. They are in over 70 countries in the world, in the Pacific, in the West Indies, in Africa. Again, they are unsung heroes of our soft diplomacy, but they are there. So what the president, any president needs to do is to have this vision of a giant in Africa. Now we adjust it by name. 2, design policies that will drive it. I want to see us have astronauts that will be sent to the spaceship. 73 countries in the world have had astronauts go there. Why is Nigeria not included? Yes, we have satellites that are designed for us by the Chinese. Why can't we have satellites designed in Nigeria and controlled by Nigerian scientists? Our brains have to leave Nigeria to be recognized and to achieve the achievable. Collectively, within Nigeria, they are defeated. I listened to Emir Sanusi. I disagree with him, I'm sorry to say. It is not. It is because we are not putting round pegs in round holes that we have not achieved what we should achieve. What we need to do that. And there are enough brains all over this country. Do you know, Pastor, there was a time the man that was designing, the chief designer of vehicles for General Motors in the United States came from Sokoto. He's back home now. I haven't heard of what he's doing. So we have talents all over Nigeria. Let us use those talents to push this country forward. And believe me, we will be what we have always wanted to be, a giant in Africa. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for spending this time. We have gleaned a lot of wisdom, and I will be back. All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir.